introduce the thing to you. I guess so. I recognize my name and Bacon.js from the... my Russian is not very good, so I can only say something like "Хорошо" or "Da." So I will try to present to you in English, which is not my native tongue, of course, either. So bear with me. Yeah. Okay. So I'll be talking about Bacon.js, which is a JavaScript library that I started working on like maybe 3 years ago. I started the work because I was very impressed by a library called RxJS, Microsoft library at that time. It wasn't open source then, and there were some issues with its documentation and some other things that I wanted to improve. And at that point, it was not possible to contribute to the library because it wasn't open source. So I started working on my own library, of course, and I wrote it in Haskell. Not necessarily a good choice for front-end development, but it was a good choice in the sense that Haskell forces you to really think about what you do. You can't just pass objects around and hope that something will happen. The compiler won't allow that. So I had to do a lot of thinking. And then when I realized that it won't run in the browser, I started working from scratch with CoffeeScript, and then this thing became Bacon.js. Started as a hobby project, but then quite fast I was surprised to find that many people were using it, and many people were doing issues on GitHub and pull requests, and it was amazing to get a lot of open source people behind this thing. So thanks to all the contributors too. Do we have any contributors here to Bacon.js? No? Any users? Cool, at least some. All right. Well, what next? FP. Are there any functional programming fans here? At least some. I'm one, definitely. I like functional programming because it makes my code more readable, and it makes it less buggy usually, because you deal with immutable data instead of mutating stuff. So when you sort an array of things, you don't mutate the array and change its contents, but instead you return a new array. So somebody who needs the original array will not be confused by your later changes. So immutable data is nice, and that's why I like functional programming. And especially in the large, if you have a small piece of code, it's not a problem if you do some mutation there and use variables and stuff, as long as the mutations stay in a small scope. But if your whole application is based on mutation, so that components communicate by mutating some global state somewhere, it will become a mess. That's what I found. But if you use FP, you might survive a bit longer. So here's an example of using functional programming. This piece of JavaScript with some type annotations here. Emails is an array of emails. Okay. So we start with an array of emails. We apply filter to this array. This is standard JavaScript. No library is used. Just filter the email list so that only the non-spam emails will be included. And filter will return you another array. Then we use map to extract the subject field from each of these emails. And finally, we call for each show. Show is a function that will show the email subject then. So at each of these steps, a new array is created, and finally the emails are shown. Let's see how our spam filter works today. So let's run it. Okay, not very well. I have to work on the spam filter a bit, but not today. We'll have to do with that. So that's functional programming. But wouldn't it be cool if you could use these same functional programming techniques also for your dynamic data, like events, not just static data? So if you could do like this, if your emails was not a static array, but it was a stream of emails that comes to you from a WebSocket or whatever source, you could use the same API for events. I would love it, and that's why I wrote Bacon.js. Because this is Bacon.js code, and it looks exactly the same as the code with arrays. So it has the same API. So now when I run this, I will get some emails from a stream, and then I will apply the spam filter, and then I will extract the subject, and I will show the emails. Okay. So it works pretty much the same as the array one, but the difference is that it never ends, because there's always new email coming to my inbox. The code looks pretty nice. Okay. Any questions so far? I was hoping for questions. Somebody promised me to ask a question. Who was it? Okay, later. Let's stop the spam like that. Okay. That was just a demonstration of what you can do with Bacon.js. Now, some basic things that Bacon.js is about. There are two concepts that appear everywhere. There is the concept of EVENTSTREAM. As we saw, it's a stream of events coming to you, and you can listen to each of these events and do something about it. It's like the classical observer pattern, where you have an object and you listen to some things in the object, and your callback function will be called for each thing that comes from the event stream. It's pretty simple, actually. But the cool thing is that you can use all these methods like filter and map, and you can combine streams together, you can merge them and delay them and whatnot. But yeah, there's the other thing called property. It's very similar to EVENTSTREAM, but it's used for different purposes. It's used for representing some value that changes over time. So you have an event stream that will push some new email to you, so it will contain distinct email events. And if you have a property, you can use the property to represent the current state of the inbox in your email client. So if you wrote an email client, you might get streams, get emails from an email stream, and then you might represent the state of your inbox with a property called inbox P, and then you would use React.js or jQuery or whatnot to represent the actual contents of the inbox. Okay. Now some simple streams. So with Bacon.js you can make almost anything into a stream. So if we start like using the DOM API, you have like document.add event listener, I think, for clicks. So this way you can listen for click events on the HTML document. But you can convert this code into Bacon.js code by saying bacon.from event document click. Simple as that. And now, now we have a stream of click events. Let's see how it works. Click e.onValue bubble. I have this function called bubble that will then be called for each value in the event stream. Let's see if it runs. Okay. So when I click on the document, I get what I get? Object something mouse event. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So it's not very hard to create an event stream. I can also, when I have this click event, I can, for instance, I can make it into a stream of numbers using this map, using a function, return number 1, and then click bubble. You know what this will do? I'm sure you do. It's a stream of number ones. So every event in the click stream will now be converted to number 1. And you can even make this a bit simpler by just saying map1. The same thing. Okay? Now, that's an event stream. How about properties? So property is something that represents a state of something, and one property could be like how many times the document body has been clicked. So you could make this using a scan operator. So let's say count p for property would be click e.scan 0 sum x return sum plus x, something like that. Okay. Now what scan here does is it takes an initial value, say 0, and it takes a function that gets the current sum and the new value, and then it adds these together. Okay. Reload and count p dot on value bubble and run. So here we see the initial value 0 that we gave, and then the first click produces the first value. So when I click on the document, this property will be updated. Okay, and you can combine properties. So you can do stuff like you have probably done in things like Excel, you know, the spreadsheet application, where you have cells, and you when you change a value in one cell and another cell, then the third one will be updated based on the formula that you have the cell in the cell. You can do the same thing with Bacon.js and functional reactive programming. A simple example would be if we have some other property. Let's say, let's make it just a constant at this point, like this, and then now we can combine these two. Combine with the other property. It's not a very good example, actually. Like this, and then like this, and here, and reload and run. I have never ever tried this before. So help me out. Where is the error? Oh, it was the missing semicolon. Wow. So this way I can combine properties. But let's not go too far into that. So I have kind of shown just the basic things, that how you make event streams from clicks, and how you make properties from event streams, and also we can make a simple event stream like from static data, like let's say Bacon sequentially, like for it once in a second we will show an item from this list. How? Like that. So you can make a stream like this, and then you can, for instance, show it using the bubble function like that. Okay. Usually, of course, your events will come from some real sources, but for testing purposes, you can just make your own streams from arrays of things. Pow. Okay. So, questions? Yes. How do we merge?
Hello. How could we merge several streams, for example?
How could we merge several streams? We could merge them.
3 or 4 or 5. So it doesn't. The number doesn't matter.
Okay.
We do not know.
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I have to go to look at the documentation. Of course. Merge all streams. Okay, pretty easy. Which tab was I in? Oh, I'm embarrassed. Okay, so I could say bacon.merge all, and then I could pass in a couple of different streams using a technique called copy-paste, and then on value bubble. Yeah, okay, like that, like this. Okay, if this works, I'm a genius. I am genius. Happens to be so. Yeah, does that answer your question? So you can, of course, add more streams to the merging thing. So there are these utility methods like merge all and combine all, and you can combine streams in many ways. You can look them up in the API documentation. Okay. Mail client. Okay. Yeah. So as I told you, you can make Bacon.js streams out of almost anything, and this is just another example. So here we use socket.io to connect to a server that is hopefully running somewhere. How many of you have used socket.io? Have you heard about it? Okay, yeah, it's just a technique to get easily a connection to a server, so you can get stuff from a server. It uses WebSockets or HTTP polling or whatever methods it finds available. Yeah, good. Now, so first we make a connection to the socket.io server here. Then we send an event to the server using socket.io, like get mail, get me some mail. And then we wrap the socket.io connection into Bacon, using Bacon from event socket mail. So whenever a mail message comes from socket.io, you will get an event in this mail e-stream. And let's see if it works. It works. So it appears that my server is running. It's running here. Yeah, this is the server, and the server is of course using Bacon.js too. Why not? Because Bacon.js works as well on the server as on the client side. You can wrap almost anything that emits any kind of events. You can wrap it into a Bacon stream using Bacon.fromEvent. This method used to be called from event target, but I think from event is at least shorter. It supports everything that has an on-off method pair or add listener, remove listener method pair, or bind unbind pair. So it can wrap almost anything. So okay, we get some mail from the server. What if we wanted to display our inbox in some nice way? We could, as I told earlier, you can represent the state of your inbox using a property, and in the case of this email application, it could be implemented using a simple scan operation on the incoming emails, like var inbox e would be mail e dot. I tend to put them on separate lines so that it's easier to read. Scan. We start from an empty inbox, and whenever a mail comes, we have mails and we have mail. Then we return mails.concat. So concat is a method on JavaScript arrays that will return a new array instead of modifying the existing array. So inbox e would be scan blah blah blah, and then let's see inbox e dot on value bubble. So we will show our whole inbox in a bubble. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, but we will try. What if it fails? I will copy these if it crashes. Okay. Okay. So whenever an email appears in the inbox, it will grow larger. That's what happens to inboxes. Nice effect, actually. But we will not let it crash. Instead, let's use another method. I wrote something like show inbox that uses jQuery to show the inbox, and it should look a bit nicer. Yeah. That's my typical day. I get this stuff. The problem is it does not stop. So I will make an adjustment. So yeah, this is a nice thing about EVENTSTREAM is that you get a bunch of nice utility methods that you can use on them. You use on any event. So you can say like take 5. So now I will get a stream that will only return the first 5 events from the stream. Or I can say take 8, and then if I think the emails are coming in too fast, sometimes they are. Sometimes in your user interface you want to somehow throttle the input so that it doesn't happen so fast. So you can introduce some throttling using throttle, like 1 second throttle, like this. And then they will appear a bit slower. But the problem here is that that throttle will actually skip the extra events. And that's a good thing for throttling user input. So if a user is clicking some submit button like crazy, you might want to throttle it a bit so that it only like once a second it will be accepted. But for emails, you don't want to do that. For these emails, of course, you would want to do that. But for real ones, you would do like buffering throttle. I'm not sure if it's a good method name, but it's all I could come up. That's a problem with not being a native English speaker. You have to come up with these crazy combination of words. Okay, buffering throttle. Now it buffers all the stuff that comes to the stream and outputs them at most once a second. So here's how you can use EVENTSTREAM methods to make a nice user interface. But of course, this is still a kind of baby code. It's a toy example. Not much there to show. Any questions? Feel free. Yes, there. Does it work natively on Node.js streams? Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, good question. Node.js streams are a thing that is somewhat similar to Bacon.js event streams, but they are not the same thing. But you can adapt Node.js streams into Bacon.js streams, because Node.js streams they actually emit events. They have this on message, on data, on start, that kind of thing. So you can easily wrap them into Bacon. I'm not sure if there's a ready-made adapter for Node.js to Bacon.js streams, but it should be almost trivial. Yeah, we can write it after the session together if you want. Okay? Any more? Yes?
It reminds me a little bit of promises, like with the then chain. And in that case, I would be interested, what about error handling? Like if there is something going wrong with like check, I don't know, like some exception or something.
That's a good question. You're correct in that the event streams are quite a bit like promises. They have similar properties. The main difference between event streams and promises is that event streams they kind of support multiple values coming sequentially, while a promise is for capturing a single value that comes asynchronously. So they are compatible. They are related. If you had a promise like var p, and let's say that's a promise, you can do bacon.from promise p, and then you have a Bacon event stream. So you can convert from promise to event stream, and then the error handling thing. Bacon streams and properties have 3 kinds of events. They have value events. That would be the success part of promise. Then they have error events that occur when something goes wrong, and then they have the end event that occurs when the stream ends. So when you use from promise, you will the promise errors will be converted to Bacon.js errors. So if it fails, you can capture it using on error. Then some function there. On value f1 and on error f2. So actually these are not chainable. Sorry. So you would have to do it like this. The on value method is not chainable. I'm planning to make it chainable later, but right now the return value is used for something else. But yes, it supports error, and regardless of what way you combine these streams and properties together, the errors will always come true. Okay. So they won't disappear in any combinations. Okay.
Yeah, so it's similar to promises, for example.
It's quite similar to promises, but not the same thing.
Sure, yeah.
Yes. Okay, next up, Bacon applications. Well, Bacon applications, but the thing is that what I showed you in my previous slides was about kind of low-level stuff, what you do with little details of your application. But the other thing is, what should you do in the large scale? If you have an application that you have to deal with, and usually it tends to grow quite big. And if you have everything in a single file of Bacon.js, it will not be as pretty as it used to be. It will grow, and it will not be so cute as it was as baby. So you will have to split it to components, and this is what you do with all software, probably. You split it to components or modules or whatever you call them, and then you will have to figure out how these components communicate with each other. And I have found it pretty useful to use event streams and properties as the communication channels between these components. They fit there pretty well, because if this component relies on the fact that there is a stream, or this one, this component relies on 2 streams of input. So say it has a constructor that takes 2 streams and it does something with that data. It doesn't have to know anything else about these components. It has event streams that provide data to the component. It works pretty nicely. You can use it to kind of use it. How do you say it? I'm lost for words, but I mean, if there's any state that these components need to share, like for instance, if this was the component that provides the inbox, so this guy might expose the inbox property, and this component would just consume the inbox property and display it. Actually, on the next slide, there is an example from the mail application. So when the mail application grows larger, you might split it into components. And in this example, I have extracted a mail client. It has kind of dual meaning, mail client. Mail client that does the socket I/O communication, and it exposes an event stream of incoming messages. On the other hand, in its constructor, it consumes a stream of messages it should send. And then another component here would be inbox component that needs a stream of incoming messages so that it can keep track of the inbox state. And what it exposes to the external, to the outside world is the inbox property. And this guy would be the inbox view that will actually render the inbox using React.js, native jQuery or whatever. And it only depends on the inbox property. What I like about this kind of architecture is that for each component, it's always pretty plain to see what it needs. It needs only these things. It does not depend on anything else. So your application will have a clear structure this way. The alternatives would be that it would depend on some unknown global state like $scope or whatever. I prefer to make it very clear about what the dependencies are. And in this case, the dependencies are also always one directional. So there are no two-way bindings, but one-way bindings. But sometimes you need some duct tape, because it's not always easy to make a perfect architecture and a perfect application where everything is so clearly formulated and the flows go one way. If you need duct tape, Bacon.js has duct tape for you. The duct tape is called bus. So let's say new bacon.bus, and then bus.onValue bubble, and then bus.push hello Minsk. Okay? So here's your duct tape. So if you have a situation where you have to define something before you can create the inputs for the something, you can define a bus and you can just push events to the bus from anywhere. But this is not something that I propose. I propose rather trying to make all the dependencies one way and make communication, make streams unidirectional. Because if you use these buses, you will end up with a kind of architecture where everything can depend on anything, and it's hard to reason about. So avoid buses, but if you need duct tape, we do have it. Use with care. Question? You're doing pretty well. I've got at least 3 questions already. That's good. Bacon and React. I'm not quite sure why this slide is here. But I guess the point was that you can use Bacon with React if you want. If you want to use Bacon, you want to model your things using event streams and properties, and you're looking for a library to render your stuff, then React.js might be a nice choice, because you can model the full state of your application as a single property that contains everything. Like in the mail client, you would have the inbox, and what else? I don't know, some other boxes. But anyway, the React way of doing things is that when anything changes, the whole application state is kind of recalculated and re-rendered to the UI. And React will take care of tracking what has actually changed, and it will change the DOM pretty smartly. So you can combine these two things, Bacon and React. You don't have to, of course. If you're into Angular, you can still get some benefits from using, this is unreadable almost. It says Angular Bacon. There's a library called Angular Bacon that makes it possible to wrap an Angular object into Bacon property or event stream, I think. I'm not quite sure which one, but you can observe changes in your Angular model as a Bacon property. And the other way around, you can also feed data into your Angular components from your Bacon.js streams or properties. So you can do that. But I think in the large, probably, yeah. If you do Angular, you do Angular. It's the Angular way of doing things that you do them Angular way. But you can get some benefits for instance dealing with, if you have data that you want to delay or debounce or throttle or whatever, you might get some benefits from the Bacon.js stream methods. Right now I'm working in a project where we use Angular and we use some Bacon there to deal with some issues. Okay. Do we have? Yeah, we have time. Okay. I will show you a terrifying thing. What is this? This is an IDE for children that I wrote and that I kind of abandoned for a while. It's not quite complete, but it does some fun things. Yeah, you have a code editor here. You can edit and run code. Run. You can upload some assets like pictures. Here, this one is handiwork by my then I think 4-year-old girl. And this is my handwriting. So this is kind of a nice IDE that could someday evolve into something usable, and you can log in and save and share all your work. But why I'm showing this is because it's made with Bacon.js. So it's still a little application, but if I put all the code in one file, it would be terrible. And I started with that approach, and I had huge number of buses going around, and it was a mess. Then I refactored it into the architecture that I kind of proposed there, where you have components that depend on event stream and properties, and everything is unidirectional. Then I came up with this, and this for me this is pretty easy to reason about. For instance, is this Vim? Yes. So, for instance, here the application, which consists of code and the assets, is defined here as a Bacon.js property. We use Bacon combine template to combine a couple of Bacon.js properties into a bigger one. So we get code and we get assets, and the whole application is modeled as a single property there. Then here we define a run E as that's an event that occurs when the user presses the run button or Alt-Enter in the editor. We use it by merging a couple of streams here. Then eval event is eval event here is done by sampling the value of application whenever run event occurs. So sampled by will give you a stream that emits an event every time something happens in the run E event, but the value of eval event will be sampled from the application property up there. And then we use cool thing called flat map down there to actually eval the user code and stuff like that. I'm not going to the details of flat map here. It's like monads, but cooler. It's the same thing. If you know monads, you know flat map, but it's not very complicated. It's documented in the Bacon.js tutorials. If you go to bacon.js.github.io, there are tutorials, and the flat map is covered there pretty well. I don't have time for that now. So it's just an example of a pretty simple Bacon application, because everything fits almost on one screen, depending on your screen size. And the other parts of the application are just required here using AMD. No, using CommonJS require. Yeah, that's about it. Any last words? Not really. Go to bacon.js.github.io and try it out. Read some tutorials and tell me how it felt. This is my Twitter handle, so feel free to blame me for leading you to a wrong path if it really sucked. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Juha. Вопросы? Есть вопрос от Кирилла.
What about performance? Do you have any measurements comparing, for example, with jQuery callbacks with backbone events or something like that?
It's a good question. I don't think there are comparable results if you compare it to, say, Backbone.js. You would have to write a similar application and then somehow do some performance comparisons. I haven't done that. Performance is, of course, it is an issue. You have to think about it, and we have performance tests that we run regularly, and when anything major thing is changed, we rerun the performance test and make sure it doesn't ruin the performance. Performance improvements have been driven by FlowDoc guys. If you know FlowDoc, do you know FlowDoc? It's an application for kind of team communications. It's based on Bacon.js, and those guys are pretty keen on taking care that their performance is good. They are competing with Slack and other tools. They gotta be fast. So they have contributed a lot to make Bacon faster. But no, I can't compare it to Backbone. Usually performance hasn't been a big issue. But of course, if you make an event stream and put every byte from the internet into the stream as distinct events, it will not work very well. Of course, there will be some overhead compared to not having Bacon.js in the middle. There is another implementation called Kefir.js, made by a Russian guy called Roman Pominov, and it seems, I guess it's a bit faster and it consumes less memory. It's modeled after Bacon.js largely. It's almost the same API, but it performs better. You might try that too. Right?
Еще вопросы, пожалуйста? Кто-нибудь? Так, есть вопрос. Хорошо.
As I remember, there were issue on your GitHub, Bacon.js GitHub, where there was some discussing about porting CoffeeScript from CoffeeScript to ECMAScript 6. Am I right?
Yes, there has been discussion. The current implementation is CoffeeScript, and there has been discussion of porting.
What state of this?
Well, we haven't ported it. The thing is that actually I don't see many benefits in porting currently, because ES6 is not natively supported on browsers yet, largely. So you don't get the performance benefits. You still have to run a compiler ES6 to ES5, and it will not help the performance. It has been tried, and I think the performance was worse. So I don't think it makes much sense to port it right now, but maybe later. What has been done though is that I have split the code base into tiny pieces, and there's a custom assembly.js piece of code that assembles those pieces together. You could easily make it so that some of the pieces were implemented in a different language. So it's pretty easy to port parts, at least.
I ask because I'm a RxJS contributor, and I don't like CoffeeScript personally, okay. But I like Bacon.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Well, of course, CoffeeScript it's just a programming language. It's not my all-time favorite programming language, but it does its job to some extent, and it has nicer lambda syntax than JavaScript, so that's why we use CoffeeScript. It's also pretty good tooling compared to like LiveScript or PureScript or TypeScript. It's pretty well supported. That's why CoffeeScript remains there.
Okay, I've got one.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a brief glimpse of your inbox during the talk. You know, filled with spam letters. And among those, there were items like free diamonds and a peculiar item about enlarging something.
I don't understand that.
And then, yeah. And then there was one, why not Angular?
Mm-hmm.
So why do you consider this, why does your spam filter consider this a spam letter? And
no, it's not spam. You know, that was the only good
it's
mail.
It's a false positive, is it?
Yeah. Actually, the spam filter implementation was kind of a prototype. It always returns false.
Okay.
It's a very simple implementation.
What are your feelings towards Angular anyway? So,
well, Angular, it's a very much different thing from Bacon.js. It's a framework. It's a framework that kind of enforces you to do things the Angular way. Bacon.js is a library that you can use where you want. I don't like Angular very much because of the two-way bindings and the amount of magic involved.
Right.
I think it kind of figures out a bit too much, and it makes it not very clear what happens when I do this. I don't like the magic so much, but it's amazing framework in the sense that it does a lot of things pretty easily. So you don't have to write a lot of code to make simple things happen, like form validation stuff. It's pretty nice there.
Okay, thank you for your insight. Еще вопросы? Да, есть еще один. Давайте это последний.
I have a question personally for you, Juha. Do you plan to write another framework soon or not? Maybe you have some ideas and you could share them with us.
That's a good question. I am actually not planning to write another framework or library. Currently I'm very much consumed in the children's game business, if you say. I've been working on a board game project, you know, actual cardboard game project, and I hope to get that published pretty soon. And then there are these other educational things that I've been working on, like the crazy game development environment I showed you. But there's plenty of other things I've been doing. But there has not been so much time for open source framework development as I wish I would have.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Juha.
Thank you.
Juha Paananen.